And we are live. So, welcome to episode 213 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, staying on topic, we've got the Ryan Daly. That's very. There's a lot of energy. What are you like, Jeb Bush? Low energy. Jeb Bush. Change your name to Jeb over there. We've got. And if I'm not mistaken, you did complete. Did I hear this correctly? Right before I signed out, you got to over 1,200, Jay.
I'm at 1,208. Woo!
Oh, holy shit! All right, now there we go. We've got independent professional wrestling referee Jay King. Jay is also a veterinarian, but in his spare time, he manages to ref down on the indie circuit and just passed, but before this, because it's over for the calendar year for him, but just passed 1,200 professional referee matches. Congratulations. That's quite a milestone.
Absolutely.
I've never seen the heel do anything of always getting knocked out at an inconvenient or convenient time, depending on how you look at it. And
we'll bring that up with the movie too. So
okay. And we've got as always some good company here. We've got Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here.
Glad to be here, dude.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you on board. This is the final stream of 2023. We're closing up the third year coming up in a few weeks, and we'll be doing a 3-year anniversary show. But they're not bad stats for the show. Let's take a look here. We've got 31 countries that we reached this year. This is from Buzzsprout, how I upload everything into Spotify and Apple and Amazon Music and all that. We had 68 episodes, not including this one, and perhaps not including the one about that I did about Rebel Moon, and about 5,100 minutes of time here. And we got about a little under 1,800 downloads. So, they're not going to write us any check for that or write me any check. But, it's been a good time just the same. So we're going to keep going with the show.
I think your next show should be about pornography because it would be number 69.
Don't boot him.
And unfortunately, Joe seems to have.
He's part of the club now.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome aboard, Jay. Yeah. I'll consider it. I think that, like I said, this technically is 69, but don't tell Ryan that because God knows what tangent he'll go off on.
He already did.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I mean, while we're in the stream.
Okay.
So, but I mean, there's a lot coming up in the fourth year, and then I've got a special announcement coming up in the next couple of weeks. That I'm really, really excited about and looking forward to that I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about yet. But I'll be making that announcement come 2024.
Sweet.
Now, belated Christmas wishes to everyone in the stream or in the replay, watching right now. This past week, they dropped The Iron Claw. Which is the historic story of the Von Erich wrestling family. Eric, I think you saw it first. I think you went out on Friday.
Yes, sir.
To catch the Friday night. It was an important stream for you because your family has a big history as wrestling fans. I think, Jay, you caught it Sunday or Sunday or something? Saturday night. You caught it Saturday night with the missus. Okay. Ryan and I happened to catch it yesterday. We caught a matinee, the 12:40. It's a rough movie. This isn't the type of movie that we typically cover, but this is a channel that discusses professional wrestling, and the Von Erich family is as big a name in wrestling as any other name in terms of dynasty or something along those lines. It's a little more. I don't know. I don't know if you would consider it. Let me ask you guys. Would you put an asterisk next to the name for all the situations or tragedies?
I think it's sadly more known for the tragedies than the triumphs. But the thing is, if you know its history with World Class, WWE has a great documentary called The Rise and Fall of World Class Championship Wrestling. And the Von Erichs and that federation, with the Freebirds and Brody and stuff like that, they were it. You know what I mean? When it came to Texas and stuff like that. So, but that's just how the world is. Tragedy 9 times out of 10 trumps triumph. You know what I mean?
Yeah, negativity drives the algorithm. Let's start off with Ryan. What were your impressions, and then we'll go around and I'll wrap it up. What were your impressions of the film?
I thought it was awesome. I mean, obviously, we all know, like Eric said about the tragedy. I thought it was handled very well. For a movie about a prominent, wrestling family, it had, I think it had a decent balance of like tragedy and then like stuff. Like we got to see some of the historic matches. Like we got to see them recreate like their fight with the Freebirds and stuff like that. And I thought that was so cool. And what it must have been like to choreograph those. And I understand that Chavo Guerrero was the wrestling coordinator for the movie. And what it must have been like to recreate some of those classic matches. Like that must have been really awesome. And I did read something today about Kevin Von Erich's reaction to the movie and how he liked that there was a balance. He liked that there was the brotherly love aspect. And I liked that. I think it was more about that and then how that impacted the tragedy itself. And I didn't realize that they cut Chris out of the movie completely, but they kind of combined him with Mike. And so, but it was a great movie all around. The scene that got me was when Kerry reunited with the other brothers in heaven. That I almost lost it there. I mean, it was totally unexpected, and it was a great scene. But it was I felt it was honest from what I read, about everything. I don't think they really cut any corners, but again, I don't know the Von Erich stuff as much as other people, but it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. It was a great movie.
All right. Eric, what did you think?
Overall, I really loved it too. Both me and my sister. We went, like I said, a tribute to my dad. It would have been his 72nd birthday opening night, and he was big in World Class and all those characters. Yeah, we both loved it. Me especially. I loved how it reminds me of like Rocky. It's not a wrestling movie. It's a movie about wrestlers. There's a big difference. Yeah. And it did focus more on that family bond, tragedies or not. And I liked how they showed a lot of good times. There's a lot of good scenes that we're going to get into that has nothing to do about wrestling at all. Mm-hmm. And I thought the acting was spot on by everybody. The soundtrack is a great soundtrack. The choreography is great. And it's, I don't think it hit me as much because I knew pretty much everything going into it. There wasn't that much liberties taken, removal of some people for time, dates. But overall, I think it was really, really, really well done.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jay.
I mean, I really liked it too. The Von Erichs were really big in St. Louis. They were here probably every other month, so I sort of grew up watching them. So and then one of my friends, he was the driver for the Von Erichs when they were in town and would go out to bars and stuff and that. And then one of the my mentors, he was the announcer for Wrestling Chase, where these guys were, and so he told me lots of stories too. So I know a lot of the behind the scenes things. That my biggest thing was the timeline didn't match up with a lot of things that they were doing, but Yeah.
Mm,
And they
yeah.
left a lot of stuff out, but they could do 3 movies about what happened with the Von
Right.
Erich kids.
Yeah.
But overall,
Yeah.
I think they did a good job.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. For me, I really liked the movie. I thought it was a very, very good movie. I thought it picked up in the second half as the heavy hits
Mhm.
started to happen. But I mean, I think everybody did I think Zac Efron did a really good job.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Jeremy Allen. I can't remember exactly. The brothers did a very good job. The guy who played Fritz
Yes.
did
Yeah.
an extremely good job. The mom, Laura
Maura
I can't
Tierney.
remember. Laura Tierney, yeah,
Maura.
everybody was just really, really good.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I found it to be an exceptionally sad movie, and
Mhm.
then also an infuriating kind of movie because, as I
Mhm.
was telling Ryan, I know someone who has sort of lived in that sort of situation with a
Mhm.
Fritz type person at the helm, and it's led to a lot of tragedy and heartache. And I thought what stood out to me was just basically how everybody suffered in silence.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the behaviors that we saw was just everything coming out sideways.
Mhm.
As people just really just bottled down what they were thinking and feeling. And, it probably would not have occurred to them because of the situation that they were raised in to ever speak out anyway.
Mhm.
They probably didn't even realize it. But yeah, I found it to be, I found myself actually getting angry watching the movie because I
Yeah.
was like, somebody just fucking like stop this.
There's a couple moments, me and my sister, where we were not saying it loudly. I mean, there weren't that many people in the room because everyone was seeing Aquaman. But there was
Good
enough
movie.
people.
It was a good movie.
There was enough people in the room. No, I'm not bashing. I'm just saying that's where
Yeah.
everyone was. But we were muttering under our breath. There are times when the certain things Fritz said or how he handled situations after funerals, and we were just like, "What an asshole!" You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Like,
You know?
yeah.
But
Like when
Kevin Von Erich said that actor
Yeah.
portrayed Fritz how he was.
Yeah, that's what Kevin said. I remember in the interview, he was like, yeah, he was a strict guy. He was like, but he was like, I loved him. He was my dad. We got crossed sometimes, so I think that was an accurate depiction. But yeah, just Fritz with the whole, oh, the belt needs to come to this house and all that nonsense. And oh, I never, you can bring the belt into here. And he was like using his kids to, win what he couldn't to get this belt. And just, after David died, where he's like, all right, who's going to take on Ric Flair? Like immediately, he wasn't even thinking like, oh, my kid's dead. It was, all right, who's going to wrestle Ric Flair? Because we need this, this title.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, these sorts of things, you don't see it so much these days, but maybe back then that was just, maybe back then you lived the life your parents gave you.
And that's how you handle it. Yeah.
That kind of thing. And you just shut up about it. And, these sorts of things. I just thought it was a highly abusive and sort of, I hate to use this word because it's so overused these days, but it genuinely was toxic. Where no one could speak their mind and it led to all these deaths and tragedies and finally, and I hate to jump when you my first impressions, and I wrote this down in my notes because I had a category called first impressions, and it was just like, these people are fucked. That was kind of the theme throughout the whole fucking movie. The curse of the Von Erichs, and I kept thinking, it's not a fucking curse. Everybody's just making the wrong fucking choice. It's not a curse. It's not a curse. It's not God coming down and striking you like Job. You're just you just got an asshole. Steering the ship. You know, he's
But-
just leading you right towards the rocks, and everybody's just sitting there like a
But
big fucking.
the thing
dummy.
is, that's what Kevin really believed. He even said it in many interviews. He said, "I
Yeah.
believe the family's curse." So it's just, you know what I mean? Maybe that's just how he wanted to
And
look
that is
at it.
and that is exactly what that situation that I think, like, even to this day, after all these people have been killed and, you know, suicides, and it's just, it doesn't occur to them.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm-mm.
no.
But
you know,
if you
Yeah.
go back,
if it does, then it goes right and out the other ear, and they're right back to drinking
Yeah,
the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
if you go back and
Okay.
look at the first kid to die, Jack Jr.
Mhm.
He was 6 years old, and it said he stepped on a trailer tongue, which I don't know if that was the mobile home that they had, but he stepped on the trailer tongue, got electrocuted, and fell face first in a melting snow pile and
Mhm.
drowned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Awful.
mean, it's
Yeah.
like that's a weird way to. I had always heard that he was electrocuted in water. I thought it was a bathtub and something fell in,
Mhm.
but to step on a trailer and drown in a snow pile, that's weird cursing
Yeah.
type stuff there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is bad luck. I don't believe in curses necessarily.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. We got Dharma Boy N7. He says Kevin Von Erich, my hero. All right, and it was good to see at the end, because we're just, you know, we're just talking about
Yeah.
the movie. I don't want to get through the, you know, every chronological event. It was good to see at the end that it seemed like he was able to break the cycle. You know,
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
his children telling him that it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
you're allowed to be a human being. You know,
Mhm.
all your brothers are dead. You just strangled your father. You know, you're
Yeah.
allowed to let. I was never so happy as when he strangled that son of a bitch. I wanted him
Yeah.
to fucking choke the life out of him.
Yep.
I really did. I really,
Mhm.
I was like, you know,
Yeah.
Fritz died in like the 90s. He outlived his other sons, except for Kevin, but he died in the 90s. He was like in his 60s. He was like
Mhm.
67 or something like that.
Mhm.
A
Hold on
little,
a second. Go ahead, Jay.
I'll say a little Easter egg is when the kids are telling him it's okay to cry. He was barefoot again playing
Yeah.
football.
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
Yeah. Yeah.
And when he went out for that run in the beginning, he was barefooted there. That was just
Yep.
his,
Mhm.
That was
his
his
And I-
gimmick. And
I love
suppose,
that.
but Kerry Von Erich wanted to do the barefoot thing too, and Fritz told him no.
Oh.
So Kerry painted his feet and his ankles black, like a pair of boots, so he could try to sneak that past Fritz.
Oh, jeez.
Fucking weird.
I did like that last picture that they had of Kevin with his family now. His
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
kids and the
In Hawaii,
grandkids.
yep.
That was
Yeah.
really cool. There's so
And
many
They
of
just
them.
look
now.
happy. They
And
look
that
Yeah,
one kid
there's
up
so
in the
many of
air.
them.
Yeah.
the
Throwing a
kids
little.
up there, yeah. He's got
Yeah.
like grandchildren and 13 grandchildren. Yeah, that was really
Yeah.
neat to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holt McCallum, he played Fritz, and he's one of my favorite actors out there. He is in a fantastic Netflix series called Mindhunter, and
Yes.
it's about
Okay.
the
Oh, I've
FBI
heard of that.
and how they formed the behavioral science unit. Because the FBI used to chase people like Dillinger. You know,
Okay.
you slept with somebody. You know, I slept with this. You know, he slept with my wife, so I killed him. Boom. You know, he
Mhm.
cheated me in business. Boom. You know, so I killed him. And then it starts to turn into like Ed Gein and like the
Oh, geez.
Mansons, and so it's like extreme violence between strangers. So they formed this
Okay.
unit
Yeah.
to deal with this kind of stuff. And he's the co-lead investigator. He's really good in that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. So Dharma's agreeing with you on something. Some Final Destination shit, Jay. Apparently falling into a volcano, you know, and then getting caught in a bear trap, and you know.
Now
you know.
I just found out
Yeah.
today that Kevin's oldest sons, the twins, are wrestlers. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That
Yeah.
they're now. Who are they signed to?
It's Ross and
Uh,
Marshall.
Yeah. I know they
Yeah.
they worked for TNA for a while. I think they might be signed to AEW. at the
Oh,
moment.
okay.
Now,
I thought that was pretty cool.
did they take the name? Because I noticed that, you know, Kevin was very adamant at the creation of the birth certificate that they be given their legal names, not the sort of stage name.
They have their professional name is Von Erich, but their legal name is Atkinson.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there was this scene in
And
there
something
where
Carrie had two. As a
Go
Carrie
ahead.
had two daughters, and one of them Lacey and what she was a wrestler in TNA and that
Yep.
too,
Lacey,
and she
yep.
retired.
When you really start to think about it, there are so many of these wrestling dynasty families.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's I guess the Harts or the Von Erichs or the
Samoans.
Ortons.
Yeah, the
the
Samoans.
Ortons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now the Samoan thing has just become enormous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like everybody and their sister.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
in on it now. But going back to the Wild Samoans, and then
Mhm.
Rocky Johnson, and then The Rock,
Yeah.
and now his daughter's wrestling, and now his cousin, who's we're not big fans of necessarily, but then Roman Reigns, and so that's become like one of the biggest wrestling dynasties out
No,
there. For a minute there, it looked like the Flairs were going. Well, we got Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true,
And so she's very impressive.
Yeah. I read
she's
that
very impressive.
but I didn't see him in the movie. Maybe it was a blink and you miss. I read that Lance Von Erich was in the movie.
Lance, it was the scene when Kevin is outside the ring and he's tagging with the blonde guy that's showboating and won't tag him in. That's Lance.
Oh, that's him. Okay.
That's the fake Von Erich, yes.
And he said that he was played by a real wrestler, I think.
Yeah, he was played by MJF from AEW.
Okay. And I noticed the guy who
Lance
played
Von Erich
Gino
was supposed to
Hernandez
be
was an AEW wrestler too. Ryan somebody.
Okay.
I'm saying Lance Von Erich was supposed to be Waldo Von Erich's son.
Mhm.
That was Fritz's tag team partner when he was a wrestler,
Okay.
and so it was the cousin in there. But
Oh, jeez.
but the other thing is Fritz let him wrestle barefoot in the matches, so he went back for that. Somehow that gimmick came back again. So
Mhm.
There was a scene though at the beginning of the movie, and I put it in my notes, and I can't remember. Maybe it was Kevin getting married to Pam, or something where they were in church and the priest was talking or somebody, and like Fritz is like looking up at the sky.
Yeah, where they're all sitting there in church. Yeah.
Or maybe it was just the kids were in church, or maybe they were all
I
in
think it was just
something like that.
Yeah.
But you just got this impression that he was angry with God,
Mm.
that God had not given him, because God had, he didn't have a bad life. They didn't have a bad, as Fritz Von Erich. I mean, he owned his own wrestling promotion.
Mhm.
He was a big name, but because he couldn't have that one thing, maybe he's just one of those guys. If one thing doesn't go his way, then everything's like a fucking disaster.
Mhm.
No, maybe.
And just he just seemed to sort of direct everything around getting what he wanted,
Now,
and
maybe-
then getting it through his kids.
Maybe you guys can enlighten me, but when exactly did WWF start? Because this was like in the 80s, this movie, and I was never aware of the WCCW. It was just WCW or WWF.
Those were regional promotions.
those are
You wouldn't have
regional
heard about 'em up
promotions.
here. You wouldn't have heard
Okay.
about them up here. Yeah.
WCCW was
okay.
mainly in Texas.
It was
mainly
like
in
the New
Texas.
South or whatever those ones are.
Yeah, it was mainly in
Something like
Texas. Mainly in
Yeah.
Texas, but it
Yeah,
traveled in
okay.
the southern area of the United States.
Okay.
Vince and the WWF, that was everywhere pretty much
Okay,
at that
that's
time.
all right.
Well,
Okay.
I started watching in the 70s, and that
Mhm.
was the days of the Grand Wizard and Backlund and Bruno
Grand Wizard.
and all
Yeah.
those guys.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm pretty sure that was just Northeast Regional.
Mhm.
That
Okay.
was Northeast Regional. I think Vince was then in charge, these sorts of things, Vince Jr. But you had AWA and
Yep.
Mid South and NWA, and it seemed like WCCW was sort of underneath like NWA because they didn't have a world champion.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
They didn't have
yeah.
a world champion, which is what brought Harley Race in. And I really
Yeah.
like the guy who played Harley Race.
Yes,
That was
he
great.
good.
Harley Race is
Promo
just,
was awesome. Yeah. he
Harley
nailed
Race
that.
just always scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
He just
That
looked
guy-
like a throwback to something like the
Harley was
Industrial
like Harley
Revolution.
was like that mean drunk uncle that you didn't want to piss off at like the family get together. You know what I mean? Because he
I
tested.
like-
Yeah.
I liked his depiction. Yeah, they were spot on with him. They were spot on with Bruiser Brody. That was a great portrayal of Bruiser. The Freebirds, I thought, were spot on. Whoever played Michael P.S. Hayes, I thought that was actually him. I was just reading though before we came on that a lot of people weren't happy with Ric Flair.
Yeah, I
with
thought
the
he
way-
sucked.
with the way he was portrayed.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy with. He was. one
We
of the
laughed
only-
about it and thinking
Yeah, we-
about it. Yeah, it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, like I think the main argument was that anybody could do a Flair impression.
well, hold on. Let's get back to Harley, because
Yeah.
Harley comes in, and that's the opportunity that Kevin has to, Jay, this is a question I have for you. Can you help people explain how something like that works, where like you work an angle and then how does that work in terms of like money? Because we can make a lot of money working this angle, and then maybe I'll get a title shot, or we're going to do a non-title, and then we're going to fight, and I'm going to chase you all over the place. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, I
hope
mean,
I'm explaining it.
the NWA, I don't know how many different promotions were underneath that, but
A
they
lot.
once a year would have decide at the big convention who is going to be the champion, and then that champion would travel throughout the U.S. He would come
Okay.
into a territory, find out whoever their top guy was, and they would work him, for a show, and then they come back. The champ would win, and then they come back and do another one. They do 3 or 4 to build up to a big cage match or something,
Okay.
and they just traveled. These guys would be exhausted sometimes because every week they were in a different town doing shows like that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the Von Erichs with Kevin, he lost that match, but maybe he's going to win the next one or lose the next one, but we just keep coming back until, it's a way to bring money by bringing the champion into town like that. And
Yeah,
and
okay.
Harley was from Kansas City, and he actually the last few years of his life he lived in St. Louis and had promotion about 20 miles outside of town. So I saw him a lot, and
Nice.
he's one of these guys that was
That's cool.
gruff, and you're like, you can barely walk, but I think he can still kill me. So it's like,
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. It'd be like a fucking grizzly bear walking past you.
They,
Like,
they,
oh,
al-
yeah.
they-
yeah.
they always
But-
say,
but-
when they ask a wrestler who are the toughest guys, they always say Andre. They always say Haku and the Barbarian. But after they say Haku or the Barbarian, they always say Harley Race.
yeah.
Yeah, man,
I
he was
do
no joke. Yeah.
I do have to say something about that Harley match. Is during the match near the end of it, he kicks the Von Erich in the groin, and the referee doesn't see it, and the referee gets hit and thrown out of the ring. And my wife looks at me and says, "He's just as bad as you are."
You could have worked the big time. You could have been working the big. You're like, I could do that. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Get me in. Put me in, coach.
Yes.
Christ. But it was interesting with the Harley match because you got to see, like, Harley put a beating on him.
Oh yeah,
Like
Yeah,
that
he
fucking
did.
suplex on the outside concrete. Like I thought he broke
Yeah.
some ribs.
well that's how it was at the Sportatorium. Stone Cold talks about it all the time. It was cement floors, dirty as hell. They didn't have a guardrail. It's just that thin rope keeping the crowds away and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just a brutal place. And
Mm.
I'll tell you what, that suplex, I don't know if it was a stunt man or if it actually was Efron taking it, because Efron did all of his own wrestling for 90% of it, at least Chavo said. It looked bad. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
looked real, it looked like a big brutal slam on that concrete.
Yeah, and he wasn't like you could tell that there were levels.
Mhm,
Like he was used to being the big fish at the Sportatorium. But
mhm.
here comes
Yeah.
Harley Race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harley Race is gonna ratchet it up about 3 notches. And hit you harder than you've ever been hit before, and he didn't know what to do. Like he got
Right.
hit, he got dropped so hard, and then I think Harley Soccer kicked him, didn't he?
Yeah, kicked him in the
Soccer
ribs.
kicked him
Yeah.
in the head, kicked him in the head.
Oh, in
and
the
I'm
head.
like,
Yeah,
oh.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, holy shit, Harley Race is trying to kill him. But for Harley, it wasn't personal. That was just the beating
Business.
you took at
How he
that level.
wrestled. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the business you took at that level. And he wasn't prepared for that, which wasn't something that Fritz wanted to hear. 'Cause
Right.
Yeah.
Remember, they walked back and he's like, what happened? He goes, I never been hit that hard before. I didn't know
Yeah.
what to do. He told him the truth. He's like, I didn't know what to do. And
Fritz,
he's like,
Fritz said that's how they test you.
yeah.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah, and I honestly thought
you
that
look
was a reasonable response from Fritz. Go ahead, Jay.
I'll say if you look at those guys from back there, it's like Harley Race, Bulldog Bob Brown, all those guys they don't look like the muscular wrestlers. They just look like these tank guys that they don't take shit from each other, and they're just gonna, you make them if you don't sell, they're gonna hit you even harder. So
Yeah. This was the days of, what was it, Dick the Bruiser?
Yep.
The
Crusher.
Dick Slater, Ivan Koloff.
Yep.
Hands of Stone, Ronnie Garvin.
Murdoch.
It was Blackjack Mulligan.
Yep.
These were some tough motherfuckers back then, and they weren't built like Brock Lesnar.
Mad Dog Sean.
Yeah. These were some fucking killers at Kowalski. Killer Kowalski. These are some fucking killers out there, and he wasn't up for it. And like I said, I actually thought that was a reasonable response from Fritz. He's like, this is what it is at this level. You got to know.
Yeah. Is there a reason that Kevin chose to wrestle barefoot? Because I thought that was interesting. Of all the brothers,
I think that was honestly. I think that was just his gimmick to stand out.
Wearing. He said growing up and running and playing, he always was barefooted. So he just enjoyed doing that. No, I remember in the one. I've got all my books here. I've done my homework. Part of it was a homage. Superfly Jimmy Snuka was his idol, and he watched him wrestle barefooted. So that's why he did it.
Another fucking maniac.
Yeah.
Another fucking maniac.
He's a whole different episode.
Yeah. That's a whole different stream. Hello?
I think Ryan's freezing up.
Oh, you're freezing up, Ryan.
Wow. It's like the order, everybody.
I don't think he heard you.
Kirk will be where Mike is, and then Jay will be where it's chairs here.
Ryan, why don't you drop out and then come back in? Thank you. All right. So, as it so happens, the Carter boycotts the Olympics, which brings Kerry in, which Kerry doesn't even want. I got the impression Kerry didn't even want to do it.
I don't think so. And that's one thing I liked. That's one thing I liked about this movie. There's no Kerry for like the first 30, 35 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're already getting attached to the other brothers. You know what I mean? Kevin's the star, and then David's just hanging out. I love the scene where Kevin can't cut a promo to save his life, and David's just chuckling, while eating like candy sandwich or something like that. And he says, "If you can do any better, let's do it." And then now David's the star, and I love their little camaraderie with Mike. One of my favorite scenes is, I'm jumping a little ahead, is Mike doesn't want to do it. He wants to be a rock star. Right. I love how they all sneak out with Kevin's girlfriend at the time, and they're pushing the car to keep it quiet so the engine doesn't wake up mom and dad, and they take them out to that college party. The college party where Mike's singing is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. You know what I mean? It's just them being a family and having fun, preparing you for what you're going to get into, you know what I mean, later on in the road. But that's what I love about this movie, is like little scenes like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ryan's still struggling to get in. All right, I'll take him out. Wait till he comes back. What I understood also, because you start to see when they get on the road, they only touch on it briefly, but there are drugs.
Mm-hmm.
There are PEDs, performance enhancers.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's shooting up the roids back then. Hold on a second. All right, so there are drugs, there are performance enhancers. And when I saw this, we that grew up watching a different era of wrestling, and to the extent that we watch it today, often we bellyache, or, I bellyache about, this looking a certain way or not looking a certain way when we see it. And when Eric and I are watching something, we'll be texting back and forth, talking about it. But you understand, looking at it, why these promotions, these big promotions now, have the wellness policies that they do after watching this show, because it's brutal.
And
even something as simple as the Harley Race bump.
Yeah. And the thing is, they didn't really hide it from their dad either, because there's that montage we briefly see Carrie, sticking a needle in his ass. I don't know if it was painkillers or roids, but then there's a scene of them all sitting on the bench, and Fritz walks in. If you look, you can still see a needle.
The syringe is still on the bench. Yeah.
So,
Well, Fritz,
All right. Well, Ryan's suffering technical difficulties. So, I mean, you can see why today, they're not pushing that same kind of
Right.
intensity,
Right.
or, maybe pushing those same sorts of chemicals,
mhm.
that sort of thing, although, I mean, I think with the new enterprise that's buying WWE, when you look at AJ Styles coming back, he looks enormous.
Mhm.
Randy
Yeah.
Orton looks enormous.
Mhm.
He's like 40 plus years old and he's bigger than he's ever been. So I don't know if this new, this new organization that owns the majority or owns the company, doesn't have the same criteria in its wellness policies. But that was a rough life and just being on the
Yeah.
road all day. And then,
Mhm.
when David, Japan, you're going to go to Japan too. You got to do that. And
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Now,
it's-
I was reading too about how he died, and the Von Erich family, their official belief is that it was the ruptured intestines or whatever. But I think I was reading where like Bruiser Brody and a couple of those guys were actually with him in Japan.
Yeah, Bruiser was over there, and there's rumors that Bruiser was hiding pills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But who really knows? It is what it is.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, if
I mean,
you
could have
with
just been
David,
getting slammed around.
yeah, this
Go ahead.
book is by James Beard. It's one of the referees. He was actually the referee in the movie that did the Flair match at near the
okay.
end.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
But he was close to the Von Erichs, and he says Skandar Akbar told him that David had been in the ER before he went to Japan for intestinal problems. He thought it was the flu, and he's big saying it was all intestinal issues. But he was close to the family. He said he didn't want to do anything to hurt the family. But then in Brody's book, he said that David had recently gone through a divorce. He had a daughter that so he was depressed. He was trying to get away from his dad. He was drinking and using painkillers, and it was actually him, another wrestler named Jerry Morrow, and referee Joe Higuchi that went to the room when he didn't show up for a match, and he was dead on the bed, and there's pills on the floor and a bottle, and Brody said he flushed the pills down the toilet and threw the bottle away. So it's like, wasn't intestines,
Yeah.
Here's something that I saw too, and I want to connect it to what Jay is saying here. The Carrie Von Erich motorcycle accident. And Ryan, we didn't discuss this, so I'll ask everybody. Let's go around. Is it just me, or did that look like a suicide attempt? Like he drove directly into that truck? Wait, hold on. Let's start with Eric, and then we'll go
ahead. Yeah.
The movie made it seem like he did. He wanted to end it. Now, again, we're going timeline wise. He lost his foot. I think way before winning the title or after. I don't remember what happened first, but if you're following the movie, I think he tried to end it right then and there.
That was okay. Go ahead. Okay, Jay, what did you think?
He actually won the title in '84, and then the accident wasn't until '86. So it wasn't like they showed the movies the same night. And I, from people I've talked to, I think it was an accident. Because but when he came right back and he had a broken ankle, and they fused it, and then he went back too quick, and then they had to amputate part of his foot. It's not like in the movie where they
he didn't lose it in the accident.
So I think he was I think it was an accident. He may have been taking drugs or alcohol again and just crashed. So,
Okay. Ryan, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of, excuse me. I'm kind of in, but I guess it seemed to me like it was just kind of an accident because he had just been drinking and was like, "Oh, I'm going to go home," and blah blah. And I mean, I don't know if he was going to take his life at that point because he was the big star. Like he had just won the title, and I think he was the one that was going to go to WWF. So I don't know if it was. That's the impression I got. Wasn't suicide. I thought it was more just he was being an idiot driving in the middle of the road because he was drunk and accident. But
Well, maybe it wasn't intentional, but in
Yeah.
my opinion, the way they filmed it, they made it
Oh,
seem like
okay.
he didn't
Yeah.
he didn't care.
I could see that. Yeah.
What I got from it was that his brother had just died, and guess what? Fritz is already putting
Hmm.
another brother forward. Now
Yeah.
how many is that? Is he the first one? Is David the first one that passes?
Yeah.
Yes.
David
Died
died
From the-
first.
okay, so the first brother has died. Kevin, and now Carrie is moving forward, and I think he pushes past Kevin.
Yeah.
Fritz picks in because Kevin, Fritz says in the very beginning, and I'm only going by what the film says. He lists at the breakfast table who his favorites are.
Hmm.
And Ryan kind of laughed. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not a joke. He's
Yeah.
like, oh. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
he's not.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not joking. These are his favorites. He's telling his sons who his favorites are, and that if you please him,
Yeah, he
then
said that could
that list
change.
is subject
Yeah.
to change.
Yep.
So he puts Carrie ahead of Kevin. David has just died. He wins the belt. I wasn't sure he even wanted to get into wrestling in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's
he
only 'cause
just
the Olympics were
just
canceled. Yeah.
Yeah, it just stays in the middle of that. The bite just stays in the middle, right on the fucking line.
Well,
And
that's
I was-
interesting.
He wants to hit that fucking truck.
I think that's the way they filmed it. But like I said, the accident was actually 2 years after he won the title. So it probably would have been 3 or 4 years after David died. So I think they took a lot of license in making it
like
a movie.
time
Yeah.
compression. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is what they do in biopics anyway.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why they
yeah,
got
'cause
rid.
you
They
gotta keep it
eliminated.
moving.
They eliminated
Yeah.
Chris because it's already 2 hours and 12 minutes, and if they had another brother tragedy, you know what I mean? That's at least
Yeah.
another 15.
Well,
20 minutes.
that's what the director said, that Chris was in the script for a while, and they just realized like Carrie had just killed, or that Chris killed himself in the same way that Carrie did. So they were like, oh, now we have 2 of these, and it's not going to have the same impact. And so they conflated, like I said, they kind of combined his part with Mike. But it's interesting, Mike, what you were saying about Carrie being the favorite. I wonder if this lasted. I mean, and I just read this, that when Fritz died, he was cremated and his ashes were buried next to Carrie. So I wonder if even in death, it was still that kind of thing. Carrie was still the favorite because he went to the big leagues. He went to WWF.
Wait,
I know
Ryan,
he was
could you repeat the first part of what you said? Because I missed that part. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I said Carrie. I said when Fritz died, he was cremated and his ashes were buried next to Carrie's. So I'm saying even in death, I wonder if that was Carrie was always the favorite because he went to WWF and, kind of was the big star.
I think
know?
it's just a coincidence.
Yeah. Could be. I mean,
The thing about this is that it goes further than the Dark Side of the Ring episode that we saw, which basically
Right.
listed the symptoms.
Yeah.
It listed what happened to each brother, and then you
Yeah.
see a little bit of Kevin here and there. This got in. You're right. There is some time compression, but this gets into more of the actual cause,
Yeah.
or at
yeah.
least the implied cause of what
Mhm.
drove these things to these unfortunate conclusions.
Yeah.
One of the characters that I really liked because she was the only sane person in the fucking movie was Pam, because they're all
Yeah.
crazy. They're all
Yeah.
fucking crazy.
Mhm.
And
Even Doris.
yeah. Absolutely. This was like an Al-Anon meeting. This could have just as easily been an Al-Anon meeting. Where everybody needs some fucking coping strategies. And like nobody has any. Or like somebody has to start speaking the truth, because that was one of the things I put in my notes here. I was like, no one tells the truth here.
Yeah. Everybody's afraid to talk. You know?
Yeah, everybody, that's it. Just forget it.
Well, I like.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that one. I really, you could really feel the pain the mom was going through every time one of her kids. And when I think it was after Mike died, and she didn't want to put the dress on, she's looking at it and she's like, "I don't want to wear this again," And it was just like, gosh, I mean, I can't even imagine the mental trauma that she went through. I mean, she had lost 3 sons by that point: Jack Jr., David, and then Mike. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, suffering in silence.
Yeah. I mean,
suffering. That's what I say. It's like an Al-Anon movie.
Yeah.
It could have just as easily been something about that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about a little bit about. Let's get away from that because it'll start to drown out, the fun. Let's start to talk about, some of the wrestlers.
Yeah.
So, who did we see? I thought Brody was okay. You could have found someone a little taller because Brody was like 6'9".
I don't know. I wasn't.
This guy
looking
was
for that, but.
No. But I mean, you wanted to kind of be accurate.
Chavo is the Sheik.
Chavo is the Sheik, and you got to look in the periphery at Skandar Akbar. Working down there. Were you guys impressed? Let's go around again. Were you guys impressed overall with the wrestlers? Like I said, a lot of people didn't like Flair. Eric, what did you think?
It kind of took me out because Chavo didn't, and it's not the Iron Sheik. Chavo did not look like anything like the original Sheik. You know what I mean? Chavo's Mexican. The Sheik was, supposedly Iranian or Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
I didn't think he looked like him at all. The guy who looked like Gino Hernandez looked like Gino Hernandez. Yeah. Brody was kind of short. Michael Hayes looked good. Buddy Rogers looked good. I thought they just got like a big dude with long hair for Terry Bam Bam Gordy.
Bam Bam.
I thought he was okay. He was fine. Harley was spot on.
Yeah.
The problem with me was Ric Flair. And again, it's this, Ric Flair, he's an iconic character. You know what I mean? It's like you can't just have Joe Blow play Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? Yeah. This was, to me, it was a bad promo, the guy. And I don't know. I thought he was just wearing like a bad wig or his hair looked off to me. The only time I liked the guy that played Ric Flair, honestly, was afterwards in the locker room when he chugged a beer and he said, "Let's go get fucked up."
Yeah, where can we go get fucked up? That's Ric Flair. That's Ric Flair.
I mean, to me, it was like, they got like the guy who casted, the TV series Young Rock. You know what I mean? Where they got anybody to play these guys. But
here's the thing. Let me ask you a question, Eric, because I don't want to dispute you. But
sure,
are we looking for someone who sort of summons the spirit of the wrestler, or were you looking for? I guess you were looking for someone who had more of the physical attributes. Because I thought they channeled these guys pretty well. That's what I remember watching UWF with the Freebirds. I thought Michael Hayes had the third best DDT in wrestling. Brody, I never got a chance to see. That was a little bit before me.
For me, it just depends because I didn't grow up watching the Sheik. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've just now got into Brody. This guy was 6 inches shorter than Brody, and he was not as wide and scary looking as Brody. But again, the guy who played Gino Hernandez was great. All he cared about was his image, make me look good. You know what I mean? The Freebirds were pretty spot on. Gordy just looked a little off. So I just, the matches with the Freebirds was great when they were whipping each other with the belts and stuff like that. So they had the attitude. But I also, if it is a biopic or however you want to pronounce that, you still got to kind of look the part as well. Okay. You know what I mean?
Okay. That's fair. Jay, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, Flair, he was too tall and just didn't fit Flair to me. I didn't like that. And Brody, I know Brody's wife, so she's like he was like almost too friendly. One that he didn't want to sell, and he was like, "Okay, we're gonna do this, and he was like smiling and doing all stuff, and it just didn't. He was too nice of a Brody to me. And the other one was, Efron is Kevin Von Erich. He worked good, but like I said, growing with Kevin, I'm used to seeing this sort of taller, lean-looking guy. And Efron, my wife's like, My wife was like, "Is he wearing a prosthetic because he looks too?"
He
too
was
cut.
so swole.
You know what he
was
looked like
so
to me?
Yeah.
swole.
He was
especially
jacked, man.
the scene when he walks into Doris and he's saying Dad's being too hard on I think it was Mike.
Oh,
He
Mike.
looked like a living He-Man doll with the with the muscles
Exactly,
and the pecs plus
exactly.
the page boy
hair.
haircut.
He
He
Yeah.
looked like a He-Man doll.
He looked like Ivan Putski. He looked like
Maybe.
old
Little bit.
school Putski. If he had greased that hair back, he could have played Putski. He looked like
Mhm.
I thought he looked like
Yeah.
Putski. But you're absolutely right. We've talked about all these other wrestlers except for the Von Erichs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think Jeremy Allen is a great actor. I love the
He-
Bear. The Bear's one of my favorite
Mhm.
things.
Yes.
I also think he was about 6 inches too short to. If we're going to play it that way, I
Yeah.
think he's 6 inches too short to play Kerry. Kerry
Mhm.
was a big, if I'm not mistaken, or at least he looked like a big fucking guy.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah,
But the guy that
physically
played
he looked
David-
like him, I think.
And David looked like David. He was the most.
yeah, I thought
Right
so.
on,
Yeah,
spot on.
yeah. Well, I thought, but see, when I knew Chavo was playing the Sheik just because I had seen the cast list, but he just looked like Chavo. Like they
Right.
they didn't bother to make him look like the Sheik,
They
or they
should've
could have
put the
gotten like,
hair on him,
Well, they-
yeah.
Yeah.
or they could have gotten like Sabu or somebody, just who looks kind of like the Sheik. I don't know. And then Brody, I don't really know anything about because that was before my time, so I thought he was okay. And same with Harley Race. I thought
Get the
I thought-
book.
okay. I thought Harley Race was spot on. I thought Harley Race was probably the best portrayed.
Yeah.
I like the Freebirds. Like I said, the guy who played P.S. Hayes was really good. The one guy, I think it was Buddy Roberts.
Yeah, Buddy Roberts.
That looked like a wig, that curly blonde hair. That was a little wiggy looking. And then Flair, I don't know. I guess the jury's still out. I think because Flair is a parody of himself now. And it's kind of
Now,
like,
yeah.
and so I guess it's like I was kind of expecting the promos from WCW where he's standing there with Shivani, $600 lizard, and it just, I felt like this actor was trying to do that, but like he was just repeating one of those YouTube videos. It was okay. I wasn't turned off by him totally. I thought, his hair did kind of look a little bit like a wig, but I think he got, when he was in the ring, he got the woo down, and that dance that he did, I thought that worked when he did that. But again, I'm looking at it. I grew up watching WWF, so I mean, I didn't really get into Flair until later on. So, I don't really know about early Flair. And then I think wasn't Mr. Wonderful in there at some point? I think.
Yeah,
I didn't
was
see
that
him.
Gino Hernandez? I thought it was
Gino
The guy who
Hernandez.
was flexing in
Yeah,
the
that was-
ring.
that was Gino Hernandez?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
Gino?
Paul Orndorff. I thought it was
Yeah, I
Orndorff.
was like, is that Mr. Wonderful? And no,
No.
Gino was played by an AEW wrestler. Again, Gino was before my time, so I don't really know much about him. I only know about Fritz from watching stuff about him. And the Von Erichs, I thought David looked exactly like the real David. The actor who played David looked exactly like David. I thought Mike was kind of off. Michael Von Erich looked kind of off, but the actor. But I think at the end of the day, though, those are you're never going to get somebody who's 100% spot on. I think it's more if you from an acting standpoint, I think if you more capture kind of the essence of the character, you can kind of forgive the little things. I mean, I get what you're saying, Eric, about Bruiser Brody being huge and those kind of details, something you're looking for. I mean, me, coming at it from a little bit later, it didn't really bother me that much. It's, again, with Flair, I can see everybody's arguments. It didn't really bother me that much, in the long run.
I think the
here's
thing is, hold on one sec, Mike. I think what also is not just, them not looking the part. I also think I expected more from something like from A24. They would put a little bit more effort into making these real characters
Okay.
or these actors look more like the characters they're portraying,
see
or
what you
act
mean.
a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
more, because A24 is a big company now. You
Yeah.
know, Oscar winners, stuff like that. So maybe that's also what was in the back of my mind too when it came to some of the looks and the portrayals.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you go back and watch that movie, there's two scenes where they're showing Terry's matches on TV. There's one where he's going for the title, and his mom's sitting in a chair watching it, and another one where Kevin's kids are there with Fritz, and those were the actual matches that they were showing on there.
Mr. Perfect's on there.
Yep.
Yeah, you see
Mr. Perfect is in there.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. About 30 years ago, I saw a great movie, and this is another character that has been recreated to death. Who was a real person. I'm talking about Bruce Lee. And so, as many Bruce Lee movies as have, there's only like 5, but there have been tons of Bruce Lee imitators. All the Bruce Lee, the Bruce Lee, that guy L.I., and all the different.
Oh, there's actually a guy named Bruce Lee, L.I.?
Yeah, it's spelled L.I., yeah. And he was funny. Like a Bruce Lee imitator. But then about 30 years ago, Hollywood did a movie with Jason Scott Lee called Dragon, the Bruce Lee story.
Yeah.
And the guy didn't look anything like Bruce Lee. But what I was able to accept was that I think he captured the spirit of the character. And that's kind of what I felt with these guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
I physically did it. Yeah, it's not on. It's not a match.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect match, And in some places, I'd give it less than, maybe 75%. But I feel that they captured the spirit of the mood and the spirit of the characters that they were portraying. Because those characters that were in there were only in there. I mean, even Flair.
Yeah, they were
probably had the most screen time. Probably had about 3 minutes.
Yeah, they were cameos,
Flair might have had 5. Flair might have had 5 with the promo.
Yeah.
And so for me, within those small little vignettes, that we had there, I thought it worked. If anything, I thought Flair could have been because I think Flair doesn't get enough credit for being as jacked as he was. Because he wasn't like a Luger, but Flair was a fucking huge guy, man.
What did he say? Prime
with
beef
the
or
arm, and which you're like, holy shit! Like, how the fuck, I think I just saw something last year, maybe after the surgery or right before, where he was still deadlifting like 400 pounds. So still, like in his 70s, deadlifting 400 pounds. So he doesn't get enough credit for that. But I thought that, it captured it and did a good enough of a job to say, okay. Yeah. I think the guy that was Flair, and the two best were Flair and Harley Race, aside from the brothers. Aside from the brothers. And I did feel that the guy who played Flair captured the essence of Flair, especially when he was in that locker room.
In the locker room,
It was funny because you had Kevin who swore up and down that he was like murdering Flair with that iron claw. And I think, like Flair would say, I'm not a tough guy. I'm not a tough guy. Harley Race is a tough guy. Haku is a tough guy. Brock Lesnar is a tough guy. These are tough guys. But Flair took some fucking beatings, man.
Oh, yeah.
He was that kind of tough guy. He wasn't dishing out the beatings, but he just took a beating from like everybody, whether he was a heel or a face. That was pretty much what Ric Flair did. He took a beating and maybe he cheated at the last second to hold the tights or to hold the rope to get the 3 count or something like that.
That's why he's the dirtiest player in the game.
Or he, give you the low shot and hold on to the ropes while he was giving that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But he was a tough motherfucker, man. And so I thought it was funny that Kevin really thought he was killing him. And then Flair comes back there and he's laughing. He's like, holy shit, I do that again. He's all bleeding. He's like, where the fuck? I'll fucking wrestle you again anytime. That was great. He's like, where can we go get fucked up? And he's like,
you hear him cracking open the beer.
And he's like, I really don't do that. And Flair just looks at him. He's like,
he chugs the beer, belches, and that's it.
Yeah. And I really did feel that was Ric Flair.
Flair is a big dude. I mean, I've seen him in person. He's a big dude. So
did you did I tell you guys the Ric Flair story about the convention?
Nothing.
No.
Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was on Rogan, and every time Rogan has a pro wrestler on, he has his friend Tony Hinchcliffe on, who's a wrestling fanatic. Like, he's a fucking fanatic.
Yeah.
And so, like, when Hogan's on, Jake the Snake, The Rock,
Yeah.
not The Rock, but whenever Flair, whatever, Hinchcliffe is there. So Hinchcliffe and Flair become friends. And so they swap phone numbers, and Hinchcliffe is on there when Kurt Angle comes on, and he says, I'm sitting at home one day, it's like a Saturday, and I get this fucking text message, and it's Ric Flair. And he's like, yo, I'm in town, man. He goes, I'm at this con. He goes, let's meet up later on tonight. We're going to get some fucking drinks and pick up some chicks. Flair's like 74 years old, and
He still acts like a frat boy.
He goes, I'm 40 and Flair's 74. So he's like, okay, sure. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
He goes, well, this thing is over at 5:00. Come meet me at the con, and we'll go and hang out from there. It's like, yeah, all right, sure. 30 minutes later, he gets another text message, and it's Flair again. He goes, I'm leaving this thing at 1:30. So Flair's like cheating all the fans 3.5 hours short. He goes, come meet me at the hotel, and we're gonna fucking hang out. So he's like, all right. So everybody's laughing because like Angle's like, he's fucking cheating the fans at like 3.5 hours that are coming to see him. He goes, that's Ric Flair to the core though. He'll do anything, he'll drop anything to go drinking.
Yeah.
So he goes to the hotel. He walks in, and there's a security guard there in the hotel, and he goes, hey, where's the bar? Because that's what Flair told him to meet him. He said, so the security guard like jerks a thumb over his shoulder. He looks over the guy's shoulder, and he sees that fucking platinum blonde hair, all the way from the bar. And he said from that moment on, he was in a music video. He said, Flair is 74 years old. He had 6 women with him. And he goes, they weren't fucking like escorts or anything like that. He goes, oh, Tony, man, great to meet you. I want you to meet these 2. They're nurses. I want you to meet these 2. They're like waitresses or whatever. And these 2 over here. He's like, what the fuck? And he said the weird thing about Flair is that, like, he doesn't approach you. Like, people, people want to come to him. First, he has that thing where, like, you're just drawn. You're just drawn to him. He goes, it's not a gimmick, that thing that he does on the promos. He goes, that's really him. So Flair's like, what do you have?
He's one of those guys who's always Ric Flair 24/7. Hulk
Hogan it's not an act.
Hogan,
Well, he goes, what are you having? And he goes, I don't know. What are you having? And Flair's like, I'm having a vodka cranberry. And Tony's like, I haven't had a fucking vodka cranberry since I was like 19. So he's like, okay, I have a vodka cranberry. So they're belting down drinks and talking to these girls. And Flair's like, all right, let's just go fucking hit the road, He grabs an Uber. He hands the guy a wad of hundreds. He goes, you're my driver tonight. So the guy's like, sure, man, wherever you want to go. They go fucking driving around for like 6-7 hours. He said 8 o'clock rolls around, 9 o'clock rolls around, and Flair sort of knows his limit. He goes, all right, let's, we'll catch up, again another time. It's great to see you, so on and so forth. He said he didn't appear to be drunk. He goes, but I counted, and he said Flair had at least 17 vodka cranberries.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And like everybody in the fucking Rogan studio is dying laughing. And there's Angle, he's cracking up, and he goes, that's the secret to Ric Flair. He goes, he never appears to be drunk because he's always drunk. And he goes, that's fucking Ric Flair to the core. Yeah. So 74 years old, 17 vodka cranberries, 6 women around him.
Yeah.
He wants to die in the ring, but that scene coming back to the movie where, he walks in there, he's like, that was fucking great. I could go again right now. Where can we go get fucked up? That's Ric Flair.
Well, I told you that Flair story the one time at the con. It was the year after I met him, and the 4 Horsemen were there. And of course, Flair was the no-show because he probably dipped out and said, fuck this, and left. But when I got there, I was talking to one of the vendors, and the vendor, he's like, I go to these things all the time. And I asked Flair, he's like, why do you do these things? And Flair straight up told him, because I got 4 divorces to pay for.
Yeah. He doesn't anymore, though. He got out, and now he owns his own, he got in the marijuana business.
Oh,
And
jeez.
I think he's like it's in his 70s. He's in like
Last
the
thing
legal
he needs
marijuana
is that.
business.
But
No, he said that he has made more money in that 1 year that he got into it than his best year ever in wrestling. He goes, I
Yeah.
have more money now than I ever did. So
well,
it's like
he
a
signed.
kind.
He signed with. I'm surprised he signed with AEW too.
He's signed with everybody now. He's
Yeah.
he's cashing in, and I guess he's having fun.
Yeah.
I hope he is, but he doesn't hurt for money anymore. It's
No.
like a kind providence just smiled on
Yeah.
Ric Flair because he blew all of his money.
Well, and I think
he blew
that
all of his
surgery,
wrestling money.
and I think that surgery kind of opened his eyes a little bit too.
No.
Not really. He was just
No.
he was just chopping Sting about a month
Oh,
ago.
Yeah, but
Okay.
when he was put in that medically induced coma, within a week or so after he was out of the hospital, he was already drinking in the bar. It
Oh,
didn't wait.
jeez.
Nothing woke him up.
He just
If you can
he
fo-
just wants to go out like a rock star, I guess.
Didn't he say that's how he wants to go? He wants to go out in the ring.
He
Yeah.
might.
Yeah.
But if you can
What's
find
the-
it online, there's an old program called Celebrity Wife Swap, and they
Yep.
did
Oh,
one episode
geez.
where Piper and Flair swap wives, and
Oh
Mhm.
gosh.
Oh no!
it's, it's really good to see the differences in how the two
Yes.
old wrestlers live and how the wives are trying. Like, oh my God, how do you clean the goat poop out here? When Flair's wife is used to whining and dining, having the housekeepers and everything. So
Yeah.
it's a good show.
Mhm.
That's funny.
Ric Flair
Jeez.
is my all-time GOAT, the number one, like the greatest
Yeah,
of
man.
all time. I know he
Yeah.
isn't what he once was, but it's just the
No.
absolute love and that he
But-
does. Like, it's sort of semi-tragic as I see it because I think he's still with Wendy. I think he's still with that
Mhm.
his wife Wendy. I guess she just accepts it,
Yeah.
and they don't hurt for money and they don't hurt for anything, so he can provide. He's just it just
He's probably one of the-
it further endears me.
He's probably one of the few guys in his age range that's still wrestling. I mean,
In his
he's not as
70s,
frequent,
yeah.
but
Oh, he's done wrestling. But he's still on TV.
Oh,
he's
okay.
not
He can
taking the
still
bump.
cut a promo. He can still
Yeah.
cut a
Oh,
promo.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
doesn't actively wrestle anymore.
No.
No,
Oh,
he can't do that anymore. He can't do that.
Okay, well,
But
Um,
like Lou Thez retired from wrestling in his 70s when he was in Japan and dislocated his artificial hip during the match, and he's like, "Time to retire."
Yeah.
Oh,
oh,
oh.
man.
Yeah, I was just talking to his wife the other day. So
Jesus. I heard like a broken hip is fucking like severe fucking
Yeah.
pain.
yeah,
I can't even imagine. It was great to see Jerry Jarrett.
Yeah. At the end.
Was
That
that-
they brought him into it.
Mhm.
Was that was an actor playing him, or was that really him?
No. Jerry Jarrett's
Was it-
passed on, I think, hasn't
Oh, okay.
I think
didn't
Jerry's been gone for a while. Yeah.
he? Yeah,
okay.
Jerry's been going for a while. So no, it's Jeff. But I mean, that's another wrestling dynasty. I mean, I don't
Yep.
think Jeff has any kids in the wrestling world, does he?
Not to my knowledge, no.
No.
Hmm.
But I mean, just another, and that, you could see because, and I have to believe that Pam is in there because of the other, because of the positive influence. It seems like
Mhm.
she was able to break through to Kevin.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need, like, this isn't working for me. You're not coming home. This is like where you start sleeping under the desk, which I sort of
Yeah.
make it a joke about, like that Seinfeld episode where George builds the nook under his desk, and he can just show up to work and take a nap. But I mean, she's just not putting up with it.
Right,
For
yeah.
her to say the problem isn't everybody else, it's your father.
Mhm.
Yeah.
These sorts of things. It just must, have been a really effective and positive influence for him that he was able to make better decisions. There's also some speculation that maybe Fritz was cheating his children out of money.
Yeah. Because I
Yeah,
think
they
he saw
talked
that
about that.
Kevin was he didn't make as much as Fritz wrote down in the books.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
they said that in one of these books too. The ref that worked there, he said, yeah, they weren't getting paid what they were supposed to be getting paid because they were trying to keep the Suns under control by Fritz a
Mhm.
little bit more.
God Almighty!
And they did a
man.
great job. You know what the thing is? Well, first off, I loved the relationship between Pam and Kevin, especially how it started off so awkward.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin is like the most popular guy in the world, you know, selling out the Sportatorium, and they didn't really show that much in the movie. But when those Von Erich boys, when they went down, they had girls clawing at them on the way to the ring, ripping their clothes off. They would get into the ring with like cuts from the fingernails from the women because they were so loved. But what I loved is how Kevin didn't know how to talk to a woman. You know what I mean? I love that awkwardness between them, and it was cute. It was endearing. And I think it helped you really get into their relationship. You know what I mean? And the two actors, they had spot on chemistry.
Yeah.
And what I liked with is like what you said, Mike, is how she was kind of pointing out that it's all Fritz. That scene at the dinner table, you know, outside, when Mike says he's, you know, he wants to be a musician, and you know, Carrie's sticking up for him. And who's the fucking sourpuss pissing on the parade? It's Fritz. You know what I mean? You know, Fritz, and I don't know if Doris said a little bit, you know, because she didn't want him to be a musician type of thing.
Right.
But you can tell Fritz kind of had his control on her as well.
Yeah. And like, you know, Mike just all the time looked like he wanted to be somewhere else.
Yes.
You know, he just had to, like, you know, he wasn't a wrestler.
The only time he was having fun was when he was singing at the party,
playing his guitar.
Did he have that long of a career as a wrestler, Mike?
No, he didn't. He wasn't really well coordinated, and he wasn't when he separated his shoulder, you know, in the ring. He did fall into a coma, and he literally did come back with severe brain damage. And it's tough to watch him at the press conference afterwards, but I am glad that they did show that realism of what did happen, because he was very lucky to have survived that coma. You know what I mean? And then again, you know, they do tug on the heartstrings. He can't play his guitar anymore. You know what I mean? And that's his life. He didn't give a shit about wrestling.
No.
He was having fun with his brothers.
Yeah, it was a
when
shame.
He couldn't play the guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
that's when you knew.
That, you know, and just that opening conversation at the dinner table where he's like, "Oh, you got to bulk up, and you're going to be a wrestler," and it's just Fritz is just making everybody's plans for them. You're going to do this, so you got to bulk up, and then he's like hinting that Mike is going to do it, and it's just like, you know, then Mike could never stand up and say, "No, I don't want to do that." You know, it's a shame.
You know, I think that what happens is, you know, that they all kind of hate him. Like, there's that one drunken thing where Carrie shows up drunk at Christmas.
You
know, and he gives his father the gun, but then all of a sudden he just like it starts exploding with like the profanity.
It was all built up, and if he
doesn't even know quite what it. I don't even think he quite knew what it was. Maybe he did realize that he hates him. But just, you know, all these different things coming out sideways, and it's just too late. Hey, goofy cat, get out of here.
Yeah, it was like everybody's doing whatever Fritz wants. I mean, the thing that could have made it even so much where everybody would say, "Yes, Daddy." You know, that Southern boy attitude. Yes, Daddy. Yes, Daddy.
And that's what pissed Kevin off, because Ric Flair called him Daddy's boy. Ric Flair called him Daddy's boy. You know, So I guess it was well known in the wrestling world. You know, in this particular promotion, everybody did what Fritz wanted. You know, and it was this kind of thing, and that's what pissed him off. You know, because I still think it's funny that he thought he was killing him with that claw, and then Flair just comes back. It's like, fuck, we can do that again. That was great.
What I thought was interesting, though, with that interview that I read, like I said, with Kevin, and he was saying that his dad was strict, but he still loved him, and they got cross sometimes, you know. But he said they were Texas boys, and that's what kind of was expected of them. You know, it was, you know. It was interesting to hear. He wasn't saying, "Oh, my father was an asshole."
But here's the thing again. You know, you think about it, Texas. It wasn't just Fritz. A lot of football dads are like that. In Texas. And it just made me think. Like when me and my sister, we were driving home, and we were talking about how just Fritz reminded us of like the dad who sucked at football in high school and is pushing his kid, or to a lesser extent, the mom who couldn't be a beauty queen, so she's throwing her daughter into like the beauty pageants and stuff just to get to live vicariously through them, no matter what the kid is put
Yeah.
through.
You get some military parents that are like that too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was in the military. You're going to be in the military. You know, you don't want to. You're not going to college. College is this, and you're going to do this, and this kind of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it branches out into all sorts of areas in life. And finally, we get to where they're all gone after Carrie, and there's that one scene where mom is just painting, and she doesn't make anything. She's like, "Yeah, I'm not hungry."
It's like she's just like her mind is gone. Like she just doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, it's just too much
Well,
grief.
She knows
she
what
did
Fritz
divorce
is.
Fritz at the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she
Yeah,
ended
they
up
did.
moving to Hawaii with Kevin till she passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
'Cause
Yeah, but
that's
it's,
something.
it's
Go ahead, Ryan.
no, I was gonna say I like that last shot where Fritz like walks in, like, "Where's my dinner?" He's like, "What's for dinner?" And she's over there, he's like, "What are you doing?" And then he just sits there and looks at her. And like that's the last we see of them. Like he's just watching her painting, and you
Well,
wonder what.
it's an absolute lack of introspection.
Yeah,
Or at least an absolute unwilling, just an unwillingness to, look inside.
And when he
or anything
throws
like that.
and when he throws Carrie's suicide back at Kevin, where he was like, "Oh, he called you. You could have done something."
That's what
Like-
fucking starts the fight. Yeah.
Yeah,
But see, that also happened with Chris because
Yeah.
Chris had broke his arm and couldn't
Yep.
wrestle, and he went to Kevin and said, "I'm going to commit suicide," and Kevin said, "No, no, no," talked him out of it, and then Chris went and shot himself anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we got
Yeah.
that back in there too. So
yeah. Jeez, that's
Kevin
awful.
was the one they always went to. The brothers always went to for help, whether it was them struggling the night they're going to do something or him literally talking them out of it. Kevin was the weight that kept them together as long as they could. Because what's Fritz going to do? Fritz is going to say, "Man up." Because one of the things that I do wish they showed, like they did some good foreshadowing with David in the bathroom at the wedding. You know what I mean? With, throwing up the blood. I wish we would have seen a little bit more, like him going to Japan, or maybe him dealing with being ill before the match. Because one thing that Kevin always said that Fritz shoved down their throats: you don't miss a booking because people are dependent on you. So doesn't matter how ill David was it because of pills or was it because of stress on the road or a combination of both? Fritz would have ripped him a new asshole if he would have canceled that Japan tour because of his illness. And I wish they would have just shown a little bit more of that with that situation instead of just Kevin walking in and then just Fritz he died of a ruptured intestine.
Yeah,
so I wish they had a little bit more of just with David either going to Japan or in the hotel before the match or something like that.
I kind of
think
like
this was I think this was the Kevin Von Erich movie.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
just had to focus on
Yeah.
him and not the other ones. So
Yeah,
I get that.
Like I kind of like that they didn't show the deaths on screen. Like you saw Mike O'Dean.
I like that.
You saw Mike O'Dean, but it wasn't. Yeah, and you saw Kerry after he had shot himself, but they didn't show the part of his head that it blunt. It wasn't like that. But yes, this is a movie about Kevin, so it's from his perspective. So
he's a survivor. And I don't necessarily like that term, but it's appropriate here.
And that line he says, it really hits you. He said, I used to have 3 brothers, and now I'm not a brother. Or however he worded it. When you think about it, it's really heavy shit. And I think Efron, that scene with Efron when he's saying that to his children, it's really rough shit. And Efron was really good.
That one scene that really got me was the heaven scene where Carrie's got both feet. He jumps down and he's in front of the house and he's got, his foot is back and how he's on the boat. And then you see David and Mike sitting on the dock. That was really cool the way they did that.
David had his world championship and Mike had his guitar.
Yeah.
I like the little thing they did with the coin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's how the Ric Flair or how Carrie getting the shot was the coin toss.
Yeah.
So
that was really neat. And meeting Jack Jr. and stuff. Yeah. That I almost broke down a little bit on that one, but that was a cool scene. So, that was neat.
There's, and I'm glad someone clarified for that because I remember at the end they said, they all moved together and lived with Kevin, and I'm like, how the fuck are they happy living with Fritz? So I didn't know that Joyce had divorced him.
Yeah, Doris divorced him.
Doris,
she moved to Hawaii with Kevin. Fritz died of brain cancer in like the late 90s.
Like that,
and Doris lived till maybe 2008 or something like that. So she outlived him by quite a bit.
Yeah, he was an SOB, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But that was nice how it did end. I was somewhat happy. Kevin is playing with his sons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's got the next generation. We get to see a picture of the actual Von Erich boys.
Yeah, that was Fritz. Cool.
And then, the ring. Like Jay said, when it's the family picture of the little girl being thrown in the air, one of the grandchildren.
That was
the
cool.
Palm trees in the back. So I did like that. And it ended with the same song that Mike was singing at the frat party. You know what I mean?
Oh,
just sung by someone else. So I did like the way it ended.
Yeah, it was neat because we see that Kevin, real life Kevin, has a huge family. He's got to make up for that. He's got his sons. He's got his 13 grandchildren. He's just surrounded by people. So that's pretty cool. And him and Pam have been married for 40 years.
Yeah,
she stayed together with him, which I thought was cool. It wasn't the whole cliche, "Oh, I'm going to divorce you" kind of thing. Like, she stuck it out. She stuck by him.
Well, it's also the issue that he is able to break the cycle because he could just as easily have turned into another Fritz.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just an old, resentful, manipulative fuckwad. And he doesn't. He's actually able to emote. So I mean for me, it ended on a high note.
Yes.
It ended on a high note. All right. Is there anything in the film, any points that we have not addressed that you would like to get into?
The only thing that we haven't talked about, I liked how it started with Fritz. I like how it started. I like how it started in black and white. Everything with Fritz in the beginning was black and white, and it showed how. It showed Fritz being happy. It's the only time you ever see that fucker happy is in the beginning of the movie when he thinks he's going to be
the NWA
champion. And I liked how it showed the difference between Fritz Von Erich in the ring, this evil, he was a Nazi, you know what I mean, character-wise, this evil guy who was crushing this man's head with his bare hands, but then he was just a family man. His wife and his kids are picking him up. He got himself a new car and a trailer type of thing because it's gonna be big for us kids. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then we cut to 20 years later or whatever. And I love the family dynamic, and there was some good comedy too. David walks in his underwear. Mom says, "Pants tomorrow, David, please." Stuff like that. So I loved how they showed that they were, Fritz notwithstanding. I mean, he did love his boys.
That's just what I was going to say.
He did love his boys. It really is a movie about family, and that's what I like. Yeah. Like I said, it's like Rocky is a movie about a boxer, but it's more about him and his relationships. The Iron Claw is about the family in the world of wrestling.
Yeah, and like I said, that's what
I do wonder though at the well, like you said about the beginning of the movie too. He at one point Fritz says, I have to get rid of this trailer and get us a real home." So I'm wondering though if that sort of ties back to Jack Jr. dying at that trailer, and we got to get rid of the memories of that too.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, maybe.
No, but like I said before, that was one of the key parts of the movie that was important to Kevin, was the portrayal of the brothers, the portrayal of the family. The brotherly love and stuff like that. And I remember reading it with the director, an interview where the director said he had only consulted with Kevin on occasionally on the script and stuff like that throughout the process. And then he finally Zoomed Kevin's family about the finished film and basically, do I have your blessing? Is it good? And this and that. And Kevin liked it. He understood why Chris was omitted. He didn't have a problem with it. And he thought it was an accurate portrayal of their relationship. Like he said, it's the family, you have the tragedy, but it's what's more important is the family, the brotherly love. So, and it's a great outlook for him to have. I mean, after all that, I mean,
It's come. I mean, we may. I'm not sure if this is going to happen. We may have the Hogan movie coming up with Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth. I don't know if that's going to happen.
To my knowledge, so far, Helmsworth wants to do it. Hogan was on a podcast, but again, Hogan's now has this thing. Are you going to believe anything the fucker says now?
Yeah.
But he says what happened is they lost the distribution rights, and before they want to find a distributor before they even start filming. And it was going to be Netflix, and then they missed it by like a day or two, and then no one's actually come to them since then. So who knows?
See, I heard there was an Andre movie in development.
Who the hell would you get to play him?
I don't know, but I had heard there was an Andre movie. I don't know how far along it is or anything like that, but I don't know who you'd get to play him. I mean, it's just
Bigfoot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, Big Show.
I remember Jay is old enough to remember those old $6 Million Man episodes.
I've seen that episode.
He played Bigfoot. I used to have a Bigfoot action figure. Yeah, and it was Andre the Giant. Holy shit! Yeah,
Andre. He was even in the Conan movie. At the end of the second Conan movie, he's that big monster they fight. Yeah,
I feel like we already know enough about Andre. Like, I don't know if a movie would be necessary. I mean, I guess if they could make it as good as Iron Claw, I'd see it. But
here's a question, and we'll wrap it up after this. We'll go into the rating. If you could have a biopic for a wrestler, who would you like to see? Eric.
I would love to see either. I'm going to go really old school. Yeah. I'm going to go real old school, okay?
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to pick the Flair or someone like that. I want to know about I don't know the actors who could play them. I want to learn about Abdullah the Butcher or Bruiser Brody. The guys that were big in Puerto Rico. Those guys. I want to hear some of that stuff.
Carlito?
Yeah.
Carlito. Okay. All right. Jay, who would you like to see?
Well, like I said, Brody would be great. I mean, we've heard all about, but to actually see it and to see the aspects with his wife and the Australia back portions with that, and the feuds with Stan Hansen and those guys too. I mean, Dick the Bruiser. I don't know if there'd be enough there for him, but because he was my favorite growing up. So Brody.
Jay, you there?
Nope, he froze.
Okay, so Dick.
I'm here.
Okay. All right, Brody. Ryan, what do you got?
Herb Abrams. No, I'm kidding. He was a wild man.
Yeah,
I would say maybe
WWF.
I'd actually like to see a movie about Jake the Snake, either Jake the Snake or maybe Randy Savage and Elizabeth. Something like that. If they did it well, but that's a hard one for me. I would say of anybody's life who would make him, I would go with Jake the Snake because he's had a hell of a ride. I mean,
they say the wrestler is pretty much based on Jake. So,
is it really? Okay. Yeah. Huh.
Well, for me, it would be one of two people, and if I couldn't get one on Flair, because I would want to see one on Flair. But I mean, I think that so much of Flair is already known.
Right.
So there's, because, he lived it right there for everybody to see.
Yeah.
I'd actually like, and you could, I don't think this could happen until after he passed. I'd like to see a Vince McMahon movie.
Yeah.
This guy starts out as the son of a regional promoter who promises his father that he won't expand into other territories and then becomes the biggest in the history of the sport.
Yeah, self-made millionaire. Billionaire.
Yeah, billionaire who just eats everything else. Like there's just,
Well, now that we
go
got
through the Monday Night Wars, go through all the, there's a lot of personal shit going on there.
Well, and now that we got
the histories.
Now that we got the Von Erichs, do you think that I think this kind of is a nice way to open the door to those kind of movies? Like, now that we got the Von Erichs, do you think they'd do one about the Hearts, or are they that interesting?
That's the thing about. I would say they're not interesting enough. You'd have to be very careful in who you would select. That's why I don't even know if the Hogan thing would be big enough to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Hogan became kind of a parody of himself. I don't know. It just. I don't know. I don't want to see a movie about Hogan.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be interested in that.
No. I mean, there's a lot of other wrestlers out there that would be more interesting. I mean, I'd see a Bruiser Brody movie because I don't know much about him. So I know he got stabbed in the shower, but and
go on Tubi, Ryan. Go on Tubi and watch Dark Side of the Ring.
I want to see that series.
It's on Tubi right now, and Bruiser Brody is an episode. You'll be very, very surprised at his story. I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bam Bam Bigelow story was really good.
Oh, there's one Bam Bam?
Yeah, the Bigelow. You forget Bigelow was a local boy.
He's from Asbury Park. He's a Jersey boy.
Yeah, man. I saw there was a ECW clip I saw a few weeks ago, and it's the triple threat. So it's Candido, Shane Douglas, the franchise, and Bigelow. Mm-hmm. And just Bigelow, you can't appreciate how big he is. Like the franchise Shane Douglas was not a small man. Neither is Candido. And Bigelow just makes them look like children.
Yep.
Yeah.
He can cartwheel and do it all.
A friend of mine, oddly enough, was taking a stand-up comedy class in Sea Isle City, of all places, and King Kong Bundy was in his class and trying to be a stand-up comedian. And he said Bundy sounded like Mickey Mouse when he talked. This huge voice, And but he said he was like, apparently he did the stand-up circuit for a while, Bundy, which would be interesting to see.
It's another thing that I think goes back to, and then I'll just get right into ratings after this. That I think the bigger promotions are trying to take better care of their wrestlers, so they're not fucking scrambling for gigs. Trying to do something like Bray Wyatt just got a Hall of Fame retirement package for his family.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to take care of his family. They're going to take care. His family will be covered for the rest of their lives, or whatever the extent.
I think it's safe to say that we'll never get a movie about Benoit. We'll never get a movie.
I would like to see.
We might not get anything, from WWE mentioning Benoit, but I don't think that doesn't mean we'll never get a movie about Benoit.
He's my second favorite wrestler of all time. He was one of the absolute best to ever do it.
That's a two. Again on Tubi, Ryan. That's a two-parter. It's the Benoit.
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword. That's a double-edged sword.
All
right. Let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the movie. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather go the rest of my life without shampoo than watch this fucking movie again, all the way to 5, which is this is cinema. This is the destination. This is why I watch films in the first place. Let's start with Ryan. What would you give the Iron Claw?
This is a tough one. It's a really tough one because I enjoyed it immensely. I can't really see what they could have improved on. For me, not knowing a lot about the Von Erichs going into it, I mean, I knew about the tragedies and stuff, but everything else, I would give it a solid 5 because I enjoyed it immensely. I enjoyed it that much. I can look past the stuff with the wrestlers, but I thought it was very well done. It could have gone completely the other way because how people pass off wrestling as, it's a, that's a hick sport and all this stuff and who cares and blah, blah, blah. But this has blown everybody away. And I think the performances are fabulous. I think the characters are great. It played into my emotions. So yeah, I'm going with 5.
Okay, a 5. Jay, what do you got?
I would probably give it a 4, and probably just the opposite reason for Ryan, because I'm familiar with the Von Erichs and I know the timeline. So, I mean, I enjoyed the movie, and somebody who doesn't know exactly how things went doesn't know things were sort of messed up in there. And they think, David just died from an intestinal infection. So I know all the little backstory. So it knocked it down for a little bit for me.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was a good movie.
Okay.
Okay, so 4. Eric, what do you got?
I'm gonna go right in between the boys. I'm gonna do 4.5, and I might just be a stickler for the Ric Flair thing.
Yeah.
That scene bugged me. It just bugged me. So I'm gonna knock it for that. Some of the look of the wrestlers, I mean, little things, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the timeline, but again, that's just kind of like what Jay said. We grew up, we know the Von Erich stuff, so I'm gonna take points off for that. But I still think it's solidly acted. Every performance is great.
Yeah.
Again, great soundtrack, the look of it, the theme of it. It's a tragic story, but it's not just the tragedy of the Von Erich family.
No.
And that's what I was honestly, that's what I was worried about going and seeing it. Like, is it going to be like blow after blow after blow for 2 hours? You know what I mean? And it wasn't. So I'm going to give it 4.5.
All right. I am going to go with a 5. I'm going to go with a 5. I know not as much as you two, I think, about the Von Erichs, but I think the catch is that this is a wrestling movie that isn't made for wrestling fans, or isn't made exclusively for wrestling fans.
Right.
If it's A24, then we're leaning into the cinema area, which is not, necessarily a wrestling fan's purview. I think it's made for cinema fans, and it tells a story that is tragic, but also at the same time uplifting. I think the performance of Holt McCallany as Fritz is just fucking spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he actually steals every scene.
Yeah.
And considering that, it may be a Kevin Von Erich movie, Zac Efron, I think, did a great job. Jeremy Allen, did a great. Jeremy White Allen did a great job. The girl, Maura Tierney, she did a great job. Everybody did a great job. But he steals every scene from everyone.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know time. If they have enough time, or not. I wouldn't be surprised if Holt got like a supporting.
I think this is going to be making it. This is going to be making it to the awards.
Okay.
I think we're going to be seeing award nominations.
I could see Holt getting nominated.
If you portray a historical person, you're usually going to get a nomination.
But I honestly think nothing's going to beat Oppenheimer this year. You might get some Barbie, things, because Barbie is supposed to be really good. I haven't seen it, but I think Oppenheimer is just going to sweep everything. It's not as good. It's not the best movie I've seen this year. The best movie I saw this year was The Holdovers. But it's definitely cinema. I thought that for actors, they did a decent job as wrestlers.
Yes.
Which is not simple. I thought they took bumps well. I thought, they hit the ropes well. The lesser known wrestlers who you saw just do it a little bit, I think they did a lot of good selling.
Efron did great jumping off that top rope and making it look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I go ahead, Jay.
I was like, even just that one scene where Kevin is running the ropes. That's hard to do.
That was cool.
And he did really great with that. And then just getting up and doing the back bumps.
Yeah. So I can't find anything really to criticize. So I'm going to go with the 5. I'm going to go with the 5. All right. Eric, plug something.
YouTube channel.
Trying to get to 1,200.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to 1,200 subs by New Year's Day. I'm currently at 1195. So
hey, you're gonna make it. You're gonna make it.
Hey, Internet Eric here is the YouTube channel. 5 more subs by New Year's Day would be really cool. I've been doing the Rocky franchise. I did take a break after Rocky 3, so I have the first 3 Rockies up. I just recently uploaded my thoughts on The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. Scheduled tomorrow, I will have my own review of The Iron Claw. So even though if you're listening to this, it'd be great if you went and checked out that video as well. And then I'm jumping right back into the Rocky franchise with 4, the director's cut of Rocky versus Drago Part 4, and then all the way to Creed 3. And then after that, I think based on Mike's recommendation, I have the first 3 movies. I'm going to go into the Wreck trilogy. And then I think I might, other than a couple things here and there, I think I'm also going to take Mike's advice, and most of at least the first handful of months of this year, I'm going to be movies I've never seen, whether good or bad, and discuss them.
Okay.
It's always good. It's always good
Cool.
to get that first time
and
impression.
speaking of wrestling, next month, January 20th, I just confirmed it with him. I'm actually going to bring back my interview series. I'm talking to deathmatch wrestler Madman Pondo, who has been wrestling since maybe 1997, and he's currently in Japan doing a tour right now. But we're going to not just talk about wrestling and him growing up, being, loving Sergeant Slaughter and stuff like that. We're also going to talk some horror movies because he, like most wrestlers, they don't want to fucking talk about wrestling. He's a big horror movie fan, so we're also going to talk about his love of horror movies, being in a horror movie with Robert Englund of all people, and just shooting the shit.
Okay, sounds real good. All right, so some good things coming up for Hey Internet Eric here. I can't wait to get those first impressions from you. Especially if you're starting off with a Wreck.
Yes,
congratulations.
after Rocky,
That
we're
movie-
going to Wreck.
That
I didn't know there were 3 of those movies.
Yeah, that
I knew
movie
there
scared
There's 4.
that movie scared the shit out of Ryan, the first one.
Yeah, it was pretty freaky. That
Yeah,
first one.
it's a freaky fucking movie.
It was
All
a
right,
good script, though.
Yeah. Jay, what do you got for us, man? More bumps,
The
more
second Saturday,
thumbtacks, figure
yes,
fours.
and missed in the face. The second Saturday of every month at Mid Missouri Wrestling Alliance at the historic South Broadway Athletic Club in St. Louis, and then I may be working a show in Costa Rica in the January. Still trying
Nice.
to work out dates,
Oh,
and
very
we
nice.
just built a second house in Costa Rica that's for sale. So if you know anybody that got lots of money, send them my.
You're flipping houses. You're flipping houses in Costa Rica. Yeah.
It has
All
been
right.
neat watching you do that on Facebook, Jay.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
really cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty fucking cool.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad we didn't interrupt dinner like we did last time with the missus coming up and are we having dinner yet? No, we're not having dinner.
She ate without me. My food's in the microwave. So
Like a true husband.
Yep.
yes.
All right, Ryan, you want to talk about anything?
Yeah, I'm getting ready for my auditions. Getting ready for auditions for Much Ado About Nothing. Bringing some Shakespeare to Summers Point, and there it is. And I'm getting ready for that. We got auditions January 10th and 11th, and then we launch into rehearsals. And the show is April 19th through the 21st. So I'm excited. It's finally happening after 3 years or more. So yeah.
Good for you, dude.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of shit got shut down because of stupid COVID. So, it's good to see that things are firing on all thrusters for the most part these days. And, let's hope that they stay that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, for this channel, this is the final live stream for this year. This is it. So, Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy
in the stream.
69.
Thank you, Jay. Happy. What other way is there to phrase it?
Exactly.
So, thank you for everybody this year. It's been a really good and fun year talking about movies, and we're going to be getting into more of them. We may have some relevant content coming out. I'll probably be doing a couple more Rebel Moon videos because it's still number one movie on Netflix around the world. And all the fucking nerds are just raging because they fucking hate it, which just makes me laugh. But
that's funny.
Yeah, well, that's they thought it was just going to go away, and now it's like number one. So they're coming, and then Nolan put out a fucking article like praising Zach. So then they're really going crazy. But what we'll be doing also starting next week in the new year, 2024, the winter is upon us, and we're going to be getting into Cold and Scary as Fuck Presents. Which will be horror movies that are set in frigid climates. And I have a long list of movies that I'll be getting to people about in the texting group. And we'll be selecting the first one starting next week.
I'm ready.
And then also what's going to be happening, I've got a new project coming up that I'm not going to announce yet, but I'm really looking forward to that. And probably by next week, I'll be set to announce it. So I'm very excited about that one. That's going to be a lot of fun. Greatly looking forward to it. Okay. My thanks to Eric from Hey Internet Eric here. My thanks
buddy.
to Jay the Ref and to the Ryan Daly for sticking it out here. The final show of 2023.
Always a pleasure.
It's not off. Well, this is unusual in the sense that it is a movie that we had to go to the cinema house to see.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the things that we cover are things that we can see at home and on the couch, so on and so forth. But this fell under relevant content. And it's also, it turned out to be one of those movies that wasn't a waste of time. If we had sent people out to go see the Marvels, there'd be a lot more profanity in this stream. I'm almost certain.
I'm proud of the panel we got, because we got 2 wrestling fans in me and Mike. We got someone who's in the business with Jay, and we got someone who is an occasional, if not really a fan at all, in Ryan. And we all enjoyed
I watched
and appreciated the film.
Yeah,
for what it was,
I watched WWF in the 80s and stuff, and then by the 90s I kind of petered off. But I still every once in a while keep abreast of what's happening.
But that's what I mean.
You know what I
mean? You're not like a hardcore fan or something like that. So it was cool that you're on a panel about a movie like this, and you still enjoyed it. So that was really how it worked out.
Last word about it is that you don't need to be a wrestling fan to watch this
Exactly.
movie.
Correct.
You do not need to be a wrestling fan to watch this movie. And you could just be right off the street, and I'm just going to see this movie, and you will understand it. So you'll do fine. If you're not a wrestling fan, go see it anyway, because it's a really good fucking movie. And, everybody here rated it between 4 and 5 stars. So, yeah.
And it's not all about the tragedy either.
Yeah, exactly. My thanks to everyone. Happy New Year to all of you. And we will see you all in 2024. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. And we'll see you all in the next video. All right. Good night.
See ya.
See ya.